often really good at playing the bad guy, and I play the nice guy. He's the bad cop. I play good cop usually, and I said, let me just go in and tell everyone from my side of things, so that you don't have to play it. And so I actually asked Emma and Steve from the studio to come and have a meeting at the hotel I was staying in. I deliberately said I want to have it off the lot because I want everything about this movie to not feel like what we've done before. I don't want to feel like we're making a studio movie. I don't want this to feel like a victory lap. We didn't want it to feel like the 9th X-Men movie, but something fresh. And I really was not sure how that meeting would go. There's very broadly outlined what Jim and I were thinking and Hutch were thinking for the movie, and literally within a minute, Steve and Emma said, "Great, let's do it." I was like, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah, let's go." It was like a 5-minute meeting, and then we did the small talk after that. Like it was very easy, and I think hats off to Emma in particular and Steve, who not only with our movie, I think with Deadpool, are really embracing this idea of risk, of trying to do new things and trying to push the boundaries. It was a complete joy from beginning to end. You know, I came up with a new formula for film, less people fighting hard. There's really 8 key people in this movie in terms of people on this stage, and Emma and Steve and Simon, Scott Frank, obviously Patrick Stewart and Daphne. It felt like this small group who really believed in the movie, and that's why it felt like an independent movie. Yes, we were part of the studio, but we were not having committee meetings. It was not a whole lot, it was just us five, and that was so much fun. There's no movie I've ever done that has meant so much to me. I knew it was going to be my last outing. I knew that 2 years out. I rang Jim and Hutch. I said, I know this is it. And from then on, I became a pain in the ass. That's fair to say. I was a pain in the ass because it really, I mean, if you're known for making apple pie and you say, I'm going to make one more apple pie, then you're going to want to make it really good. And not only for you to taste, but for everybody else. Please tell me it was the best apple pie I made. So, I wasn't. It did sound like I was fishing, but I didn't mean to.
You were, in fact.
I wasn't fishing. But I was a real pain, and it wasn't until the Berlin Film Festival where we presented it for the first time. And I sat there actually next to Jim and Patrick Stewart, and that cross became the X, which to me still, what Jim wrote, is one of the most beautiful moments I've ever seen in film. I absolutely loved it. I wept like a baby because I realized that's when I could fully let go. So it was so much fun, but in truth, there was so much at stake for me. I will never, ever, ever, particularly this man to my right, but also Hutch, ever be able to thank them enough from the bottom of my heart for making me able to sleep well at night, for having, you understand that I was given a character that is a gem. Like anyone who knows anything about comics knows that Wolverine is one of the great characters. And I always felt that there was more to it than we had put on film, and Jim really got that vision that I had in my heart and put it up there on the screen, and I'm forever grateful. So thank you, man.
It does require me, with that much lovely stuff coming out of you, to say something about his performance in this movie. I think is easily one of the great performances of his career. But it's also really more difficult than you'd think. This is a character you're watching and you're rooting for, who abandons his daughter about 6 times in the movie. And when he meets her, tries to throw a pipe at her the first time. The point is that it's a tough line to walk, and really, and there's not many people in the world who could ever do that. And that to hold you, that you love him, that you feel kindness in him while you watch him decapitate people. That is a tightrope walk for an actor, and it is, and that you, both things, you fear him and you love him, and I think that is part of the beauty of the character, even in the comics. But it is the thing that Hugh has always captured, and I thought went on a very deep dive in this movie, in a way that was kind of more. He had more space, obviously, to play because there was less plot, but I thought he went on a very deep emotional dive in the character, and it was really, really beautiful work.
The sweetness is the sense of unbelievable gratitude for the people I worked with for 17 years, the fact it's 17 years, which is astonishing, and also feeling a sense of creative satisfaction with the character. It felt like the right time to leave the party. I know Australians are not particularly known for leaving the party at the right time. And it has been 17 years, so perhaps I did stay a little long.
There a long time.
But actually, in all honesty, and watching the film was the most, I know there's a lot of actors here, so it's not always easy to watch yourself on film and feel separate from it. But when I saw this, I kind of loved the character more than ever before. There was a little part of me going, oh, I wish we'd started here. But there was, and maybe that's experience or age on my part and the material we had. But I am particularly fond of Wolverine in this film, and so that part makes it a little bitter. But I am forever grateful and honestly feel very much at peace with it.
So what lessons does Hollywood have to learn from this movie? I mean, really, what could they do better going forward, across the board, whenever they can?
Well, I think making movies out of the box, just doing something different. But I think as Hutch says, they're always looking to do things different. But I think I'm very, this is going to sound really random and academic, but I'm a big believer in not using words to box us in, like calling things comic book movies and thinking there's a rule for comic book movies. What the fuck is a comic book movie? Like, why isn't every adaptation of a novel called a novel movie? Like it's like there's very sexy adult comics, there's Archie, there's Batman, there's Marvel, there's DC, why are all these things have the same rule? I actually don't even think there is such a thing as a genre of a comic book movie. I think there is, there's heroic films, and they've existed even longer than cinema's existed in terms of stories. Hercules, Ben-Hur, Gladiator, these are all about people, gifted powers, born on kind of touched by God in some way. And it's a better way to think about making these movies. I mean, what I would say is that I think the biggest mistake people get into is they are making, when they make a comic book movie, they're not even making a movie. They're making a universe and a way to sell toys and to sell the next movie. And, it's very intentional that there isn't an extra scene, because it's all, I find, a kind of weird bargain they've even made with the audience to be complicit in the marketing of a series instead of making a movie that begins and ends. You all become involved, and now you whisper and you read in advance about the extra scene for the next one and the blah, blah, blah. And it's all it's like the prizes on the back of the cereal box. You're all just been captured by the need to buy more and already be chattering about the next one. And complain when they don't give me the little thing on the back of the cereal box, as if you're like, oh yeah, no, because the Wizard of Oz had one, and Singing in the Rain had one, and Citizen Kane has an extra scene at the end, and it's like what the fuck is that? And it's a way to sell not movies, but universes and box sets of DVDs, and at that point, that's where I lose interest. And I think that's where I think a lot of people are actually already losing interest, is that they're very expensive, extremely elongated, and separated by years television shows, and that I think it would be much more exciting to let filmmakers go and not give a shit if they change the cast, and not give a shit if the costume's different, and not freak out if something in the exposition has been changed between one movie or another, because maybe they're going to make a better movie because of that, as opposed to a better box set of bullshit. So the kind of
Actually, you will speak well about this, but I think in the end, story. We want a great story that illuminates our life, that entertains us, that maybe teaches us something, that melts our hearts. So characters we love. And the stories that have something to say. And it could be a comedy, it could be anything you like. But I think if you're going in with that intention of creating a great story with characters people are going to love for the rest of their lives, and it actually has something to say, you're on the right track. And I never forget, my acting teacher always was like, you're going to do that theatre show, you're going to do it 400 times, but every night it has to be like it's the first time, but also like it's the last time. And I think if we made movies, and this is from our experience, we made this movie knowing it was the last time I was playing it. And it created a sense of freedom, in a way. We had nothing to live up to. We weren't setting up anything. We didn't have to introduce another character that was going to, none of that. And also, we had to, in that 2 hours, say everything we wanted to say forever about that character. And so we wouldn't settle. And I think if you go in with the stakes that high, don't worry if there's 6 more, it may be no more. You may make a perfect movie that should never have a sequel, you know? Just make it as though it's your last and put every ounce of your heart and soul and sweat into it.
Well said.
I've been meditating for 25 years. So a guy I was at drama school with just had this quality to him that I was, you know, when you meet somebody, you go, what's that guy doing? There's something about that guy. And he introduced me to this group that ended up being meditation, and it started for me, honestly. I thought meditation would help me with acting, because it's really about being present and allowing to just be yourself, and which is really what acting is, being present. And then about 18 months into meditation, I was like, oh, actually, I think it's the other way around. Meditation is just a great foundation for life, so I highly recommend it as a form of transcendental meditation, and you don't have to believe in anything. You don't even have to believe in meditation. It still works. So, yeah.
What is it about when you're working, like doing your character study, what sticks out to you that you latch onto as an actor as you're developing? Like, I guess, what is it that you seek out from the script?
What do I latch onto as an actor when I read a script? That's the question, right? I was just repeating that for everyone in case they didn't hear, but it's a really great question. I do have to connect to it on some emotional level. For me, that is important, and an intellectual level. And on some other hoo-ha level, I don't know, like it just feel like makes sense to me on a guttural like level. I don't even know how to explain that. It probably, I feel as an actor, or actually anyone in the creative field, any form of art, is such a, I believe the artist's job is to melt the hearts of the audience in whichever way. And it could be laughter, it could be tears, it could be anything, whatever. Our job is to connect. I fell in love with that the moment I went on stage, and I feel it very powerfully in the theatre, and I think in movies we have that opportunity. So as an actor playing a part, I have to feel that it's going to connect to me, melt my heart in some way. So I'm looking for that. I'm also looking for something that scares me in it. It drives me crazy because it's uncomfortable, but I think often my best work, if I can be objective about it, there's been something really frightening in it for me. A challenge, a wonder if I can pull it off. Hence, I try to have more talented people around me. Jim, I worked with on 3 movies for 17 years, and he gets the best out of me. I think probably some of my best performances, most of my best performances I've ever done have been with him, because he directs me, he pushes me, he also knows who I am, he knows my tricks, even the tricks I'm not aware that I'm using, and pushes me. And I think that's another really important thing as an actor, not to be afraid to be around people who will challenge you and push you in uncomfortable ways. Yeah. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this.
I'd like to add one little quick thing, because it was on my mind. I've never said this to you, and you alluding to it. And I want to reiterate what you said, that this movie would not have been possible without Jim. And I think not only just making the movie, but negotiating people who are writing checks for $100 million, which is a real thing. And if people say, oh, the studio, and I always say to the person, really? So get out your checkbook, you write the $100 million check. You know, it's a difficult thing. So
Don't worry, everyone dies except a couple kids will be orphaned.
But I've only ever seen it once before on this level. Jim has that leadership, and that was Chris Nolan. He has that same thing, and what it is this ability. You talk about not compartmentalizing, and I think that's true. You don't, but you also communicate equally with me and Hutch as you do with the studio, and you bring everyone in on the process. And that, if there's any other people out here or thinking, or leaders or directors, I think that idea of communication, yes, have your vision and the story, but being able to bring everyone along for the ride, that is key. And without that, you can't sort of, you can't get across the line. So that
A lot easier when you're working with a friend for 17 years.